Good afternoon. Welcome to the CAPA Weekly Talk. So I'm Dr. Yun Lu. I'm organizing this talk on behalf of CAPA, Chinese American Parent Association of Howard County. So this event is sponsored by COED, Howard County Community Organizations Active in Disaster. So this week, we'll have Dr. Min Wu. She will be talking about the magic kingdom of ones and zeros. Dr. Min Wu is a mother of 2 children who are studying HCPSS. Her several other hats include educator, inventor, author, editor, and EE and CS researcher. EE is a short name for electrical engineering, and CS is a short name for computer science. At work, she's a professor and associate dean of the Clark School of Engineering at University of Maryland, College Park. So let's welcome Dr. Min Wu. Dr. Wu, it's all yours. I think you're on mute. Are you on mute? I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lu, for hosting this event. I also very much appreciate having the opportunity to share the STEM activity that I originally prepared for my daughter's school, and really thankful for CAPA to have this online platform and with a weekly education talk. So for all the friends who are joining today, I'm going to be your tour guide, and we are going to visit this magic kingdom where we only have 2 numbers, ones and zeros, and many of the choices the people live in this kingdom would be only 2 choices, as we will see. So Dr. Lu, would you be able to mute other participants?
Yes, I'm doing that now. I'm going to mute all the other participants. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to visit this kingdom, as I mentioned, different from our world. In this kingdom, we only have ones and zeros. So we know in elementary school, we start with counting from 0, 1, 2, 3, and all the way to 9. So we have 10 digits. But in this kingdom, we only have ones and zeros. So how do they talk? How do they count? And we are going to learn the ways they do things. So we will start with playing a game. And here I have several cards, and I'm going to have one volunteer who would pick a number between 0 and 30. And then you would write down the number on a piece of paper and then raise for everyone to see. But I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, so I will cover my eyes to make sure I'm not going to cheat. And then I will ask you 5 questions to figure out what is the number you have written down. So I think we have, so Caris and Rima? Yeah, okay, I saw you're there. So would you like to be the first volunteer to pick a number between 0 and 30, and then write it down. And now I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and see if you can show to, let me see if you're, yeah, you are, okay. Or you could type on the chat window. I'm not going to see the chat, so I will be really be honest. And then we are going to start playing the game. So think of a number, and when you're ready, you will type in the chat window for everyone else to see. I'm not opening my chat window, and you can tell me when you are ready. I think you are, so I'm going to try to let's see if I can, unmute you. Okay, so are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Have you typed the number that everyone else can see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, now I'm going to ask you 5 questions. So you see on this page, I prepared 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. And here I have a little places I can take some notes. So I want you to first looking at this card number 1 and tell me the number that you have written down. Is it in this card? Yes or no?
No.
No? Okay. So what I would do, is I'm going to record your answer here. So this is the first card, and you can see, oh, so I made a mistake. So it will be no, not in this card. Okay. Okay, now let's look at the second card. And is your number in this card? You can see every card have 16 numbers. No? No again?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I'm going to record no again. Now let's look at the third card.
No.
Yes. Okay. So no. Okay. So once again, is it yes or no?
No.
No. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. How about card number 4 now?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
So I'm taking notes here. And now we have our 5th and the final card.
Yes.
Yes.
Is your number?
Yes.
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 Okay, so interesting. So even though you didn't really tell me what exactly the number, but by listening to your answer, I know a little bit about the number. So I actually also have my kid. I think Sophie is also in line. So could you help me to check, is Rima and Carissa are telling me the right answer? And
So
are you sure that I'm learning the right answer? So it wasn't card number 1, 2, and 3, and it was in card 4 and 5. Okay, so by looking at this, I know something about your number. It's not in the first card. You see all the numbers in my first card are odd number. So odd number, as we have learned in school, are those numbers starting with 1 and count by 2. So we have 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. So by not in this card, we leave out those, the missing ones are the even numbers. So those even numbers are starting from 0, count by 2. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. So I'm going to clear everyone else join, okay? So it's is it an even number, Rima? Yes?
Yes.
And also this is a pretty large number since it's in card number 5. So what I would know with this number is, so let me write it down. It's a number, it's number 24.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how did I really quickly computed this number? So what I would do is see when you have yes, I'm going to convert it in this magic kingdom of ones and zeros. They only have 1 and 0 to call and write down a number. So I'm going to convert all the no's into 0 and all the yes into 1. And then we have this translation table. So this is a helping table that when you play the game, you will have. And then with your friend's answers, you try to guess what will be in this magic kingdom. They only have on this side, so you can see And I'm going to see which one matches the answer I got by asking questions from my friend. And you, sorry, so you will see it's here. So that's where I was able to very quickly guess what the number is. So it's a 24. Okay, now we actually could ask just 5 questions to be able to figure out any number in this range between 0 and 30. Anyone else want to play the game again and then see if I will be able to actually also guess exactly the number that you are thinking of? So let me see who is in this. Oh, Emily. So Emily. Is always okay? There are a lot of okay. It's hard for me to see. Oh, Emily Liu. I think I'm going to unmute you.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Emily. Do you want to think another number, and we can play the game again? So let me show you.
Okay.
So again, you will think about a number in the range of 0 to 30, and then you will type in the chat window for your friends to see. And then I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then I'm going to start guessing. Okay, are you ready? Let me unmute you.
So yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this time we are going to start with backward, start with our card number 5. So is your number in this card?
Number 5.
No.
No? Okay, so since we already know the drill, I'm going to directly record in my table a 0 for the 5th card. How about the card number 4?
Yes.
Yes, so I'm going to record a 1. And how about card number 3?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. How about card number 2?
No.
No. So what should I put in when I hear a no from you? I would put, so in this kingdom with just 0s and 1s, we said 1 means yes, and then if you don't see it, I will put in a 0. So how about the last card, the card number 1?
No.
No. Okay, so my friend, from the answers that Emily gave us, even though I haven't seen the number, by hearing her say, hey, it's not in card number 1, we have already learned in the previous game that card number 1 only have odd numbers. So if it's not there in the range of 0 and 30, I know this is an even number again. So my friends today really love the even number. And another thing that I can very quickly know is her number a big number or a small number in this range between 0 to 30? And she told me, you see, the first question that I asked her, is that in card number 5? And she told me it's not there. And you can see all the numbers in card number 5 are bigger number. In fact, they are the bigger half in this range between 0 to 30. So by hearing her answer, I know this is a number that actually quite small, but seems not too small because it's the next one. She told me that it's actually in the card number 4. So I know from her first question that it's it must be these two lines, but it's in card number 4, and card number 4 have this 2 rows of numbers, and the only possibility would be these 8 numbers. So you see, one by one, as I ask more questions and learned the answers from her, it helped me to narrow down my choices, and eventually I will be able to pinpoint down what number she wrote down. So for example, she told me it is in card number 3. So what do you see? Card number 3 have just the right half of the numbers in this table, and but there's only 4 of them was in this row that I have found from her previous 2 answers. So now I narrow down to only 4 choices. And further, she was telling me that it wasn't in card number 2. So I'm going to, among these 4 choices, which ones are not there? There's only this one and this one. And then the final answer she told me is an even number. And so I would know which 2 of this would be the even number. So this one that was missing was a 12, and this one was a 13. So that's how I will be able to arrive at my guess. The number you wrote down is 12. Is it correct?
Yes.
Yes. So what you will see here, my friends, what I wrote down as I record the answers that Emily gave when I'm one by one try to guess the numbers and try to narrow down my possibilities. I'm arriving at a way to write down this number. That is where people in this magic kingdoms of ones and zeros would say and would write down the number 12. So if we just to remember what we talk about, in our world, we have 10 digits from 0, 1, 2, and all the way to 9. But in the Magic Kingdom, they only have 2 choices, 0 and 1. And in scientists and mathematicians would call this, would call this 2 choices as binary. So some of you may have seen this BI, bi means 2. So you have your bicycle, have 2 wheels. In contrast, a tricycle, TRI, would mean 3. So binary means everything in this kingdom have just 2 choices, 2 possibilities. For example, you would have, we could have many of the things around us have 2 possibilities. So I saw my friend Sophie Wu is there, my daughter. So can you give us some examples, as I try to unmute you, that you only have 2 choices? I see. Oh, you just, okay, she just got left out. Okay, now I saw our friend Lucas He. Would you be able to tell us some examples of 2 choices? You are muted.
2 choices.
Yes. So what things around you have only 2 choices that you think this Magic Kingdom people would also have?
Well, so you can only close or open book. You cannot just rip the book open.
Okay. So what I didn't have here is open or close. Very good. And as I also prepared on this slide, for lights, we could have turned on and off. So those are the two choices. And for color, oh, some of my friends are drawing. Thank you for your creativity, but to help everyone learn, please refrain from drawing. I'm going to, I love your creativity. I'm going to actually have something that you can take back.
You can disable annotate.
You can press stop
Yes,
annotation.
right. I am not sure whether, oh, I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that tip. Okay, let me, let me remove all this drawing.
You can
Thank
go
you
to
for
security and disable.
Okay, thank you. So we can also have colors, for example, black and white. And a moment ago, when I was answering and recording the, oh, actually, I think there's something with my sharing of my window. Okay, so it was freeze. So let me share my screen again. Okay, let me mirror it quickly again. Okay, okay, now we're back. So a moment ago, when I was recording the answers to the questions, we have the answers yes or no. So in mathematicians, they actually, when they see two possibilities that could mean very different things, they actually can just use the number 1 and 0 to represent, to tell about the two possibilities. This could mean the lights is on or off. This could mean the answer to the question is yes or no, or this could be open or closed, and so on. So what you have seen is in this table, we are basically trying to learn how do we put up the number, how do we count using just these 2-digit choices, ones and zeros. So how did we arrive at this counting table? And in our school, in elementary school, we start learning to count from 0, 1, all the way to 9. Now we use up all the 10 digits we have. So what do we do? So instead of just staying with very small number, only can count in terms of the loose item, we call them ones, we actually learned to use the next place and to record how many tens we have. So that's where we have 10 will be just 1 10, and then no loose item. And then moving on, we can start adding more loose items to count from 11. Let me enable this. So to count from 11, 12, 13, all the way to 19. And then once we reach out to add one more, we are going to add into the number of tens to make this recorded number as true and 0, and then so on and so forth. Once we reach out to 99, we learn that we are going to move up to the next place value, 100. So many of my friends in the second grade and above, and some in the first grade, have learned this, how mathematicians are going to record the numbers in our world. Now, in this magic kingdom with only choices of ones and zeros, they are actually trying to do the same thing. But the difficulty is they only have a choice of 2. So 1 and 0. So they start just like what we do, 0, then nothing, and then we start counting and adding loose item 1. But now, people in the Magic Kingdom already use up all the digit choices they have. So what can they do to learn to count? So they take a similar strategy. They move up to the next place and then use this to represent how many twos we have. So that's why in this Magic Kingdom, so they call 2 not as 2. They don't have the digit 2. They call 2 as 1, 0. And sometimes to make it easier to talk about the numbers in the same number of digits, we are going to add zeros in the front. Okay, now, so far so good. They already move up to, this means I have 2, and then I would add additional loose items. So when I count further, I'm going to have 1, 1. That's how people in the Magic Kingdom of ones and zeros will use 1, 1 to write when they need to write down 3. Okay, now we are continue to count, and we want to add one more item. But again, see, here we are using up our digit choices. So what do? We are going to add into how many 2s are there. Originally, we have 1 2s and then 1 1s. So that made up 3. But now I'm using up again. So the people in the Magic Kingdom are going to move up to the next ones. So the first, they are going to mean how many 4s I'm going to have. And then the next, they will say how many additional 2 I'm going to have. And then finally, they will see are there additional loose items. So that's why in the Magic Kingdom, instead of having 4, they don't have those digit choices, and they will record 4 in their kingdom as 1 0 0. They will continue the process, counting one more. If they haven't used up the digit choices, they are going to have 1 0 1 for 5, and then so on and so forth. And that's how they will learn how to count, and actually can count very, very big numbers by piling up the digits with ones and zeros. So this is a translation table between our world of what we call as decimal numbers. That's what we learned in elementary school, and translating between our numbers and the numbers in this Magic Kingdom of ones and zeros. And mathematicians and engineers will call them as binary numbers. So when you are playing the game, you can have this table handy, and I'm going to give the link to your parents who can download for you. And just in case if you don't have it, we can use a strategy as we were playing the game with Emily. The second time, we were trying to gradually narrow down. So based on the answers, we try to see what set of numbers your friends wrote down, and then we will be one by one narrowing down our choices. And we already know very easily, I could know whether it's an even number or odd number by looking at their answers to the first question, whether it's in card number 1, and also knowing is it a big number or a smaller number in this range by looking at their answers to the card number 5. And in between, we have our strategy to help us narrow down our guess. And if they are telling you the truth, and if we do things really diligently, we will get it 100% correctly every time. Okay, so I have this as a handout that we'll give to your parents. Now, why is the word of binary important? So it turned out that it's actually when we start building machine to help us do calculation, to help scientists forecast how well the weathers are, and help the captains of the ship to navigate their ship, and also airplanes, to build airplanes, to fly airplanes. It turned out that it's actually quite difficult for us to build a machine that could record numbers, especially large numbers, and compute them directly. If So you could think about maybe a number, let me just write it down using today's date, made 14, so if 514, this is actually a very big number. It's hard for engineers and scientists to build a machine to record the exact values and making sure that values hold up and without mistakes, or sending it far away without any mistakes using just the machine. And what through the hundreds of years, scientists and engineers have figured out that they actually could find ways of using just zeros and ones, and they know how to store those numbers and how to do math with those numbers. They actually have ways to do addition, subtraction, multiplications, and many operations, many math operations directly on this binary numbers. So you can see that people in these magic kingdoms are quite smart. So they can work with those numbers, addition, subtraction, multiplications, just like the way we work with our decimals. But they have particular rules to work on that. And then further, over the years, scientists and engineers work together. They make this computation, such storage, more reliably, and also making it much smaller. And you can see I have two pictures showing here. This was looking like a light bulb. These were called electron tubes. And decades ago, people would use this. This is kind of a switch. We talk about a binary. You can turn on the light bulb or turn off. So this is actually an on-off switch. In the first generation of computing machines, they have many of such tubes, and using those tubes to do the calculation. You could imagine, hey, this one is probably bigger than my palm, and if you are going to use thousands of them, they are going to build a machine that really occupy multiple rooms, maybe bigger than the house or apartment we live in. But over the years, scientists discovered new materials, and engineers also work closely to figure out engineers very smart ways to putting things, many of such switches, such light bulbs in very small places. So this is actually a slice of a special material called silicon and silicon crystal. And now engineers and scientists can really squeeze many such switches in it to do computation for us, to remember information, remember numbers for us. And they were also, in parallel, they are able, communication engineers are able to send those informations in ones and zeros more reliably to the other side of the world, for example, allowing us to send our video, our pictures to our grandparents on the other side of the globe. And all this working together, they really form one of the foundations to what we call as the digital revolution. And in the era we are in, people often call it information era. We have smart devices, smartphone, tablets, laptops. We can send information, pictures, videos, just like today's virtual stand talk. It's carried out using online and inside our computer, and in the doing the wireless communication, those zeros and ones are in working to help us communicate and share information. So now, speaking of how the computer work, there's one thing you may wonder: how does computer write? And it turned out that, especially in the earlier days, there's actually very limited way for the computer to know to write really nicely. They don't have very nice pen like we have, and they don't have as smart muscles as we do. What they have, again, two choices. So often they will use light bulbs, maybe tiny light bulbs, and they use turning it on or off as 2 choices, and they will line up many of those light bulbs from an array of bulbs, and then they can design patterns to represent, for example, our A to Z alphabet. So what I put in here are 2 empty patterns that you could design where I should lighten it up. I can color those places that we should lighten it up, like the initial of your first name and the last name. So in my example, I am going to have those light bulbs lighting it up. So I'm going to use a favorite color to fill it, to color it. And you can, when you go back, you can color the ones based on the letters of your name initial. And how about drawing bigger pictures? And what we would need is a bigger array of light bulbs. So I prepared this one for you to color the ones and forming a pattern. They can be a favorite animals or favorite persons that you can try to draw on this canvas. So using this, again, 2 choices, computer learned to draw simple things. And then with more technologies, scientists and engineers that give computer and our smartphones those displays more ability to draw color things and to draw more beautiful things. But they started with very simple choices, 1s and 0s. So my friends, I really am glad to have this today's STEM talks with you. So let's recapture what we have learned. So we have learned about, in this magic kingdom of 1s and 0s, they don't have 0 to 9, the 10 digital we have learned in our elementary school. They only work with 2 choices, often 0 and 1s, and they learn to count by using only those 2 numbers. And then we use this game to see how we could ask questions and record our answers using those binary choices, and then figuring out the ways people in this magic kingdom will record numbers, and also translate it into what our world people would know in terms of the decimal, so between binary and decimal. We further learned about how scientists and engineers work together to learn to store those binary numbers, compute, and send those information. And they have done this over the years more reliably in smaller devices, and they can store longer and compute faster and send it faster to your friends on the other side of the world. So all this form the foundation of our digital information era. And you can see that all the math, the science, and even the art we have learned can help you, my friends, to be the future inventors of new technologies that make our world better and more fun to live. So I want to thank you, everyone. And on my title slide, you can ask your parents to do to capture this QR code. It will be leading you to a web page that I created with quite a simple interface. But they have there you can see a link to the slides that I'm showing you today, and also I prepared in larger format the handout that you can play the game of guessing numbers and also do the drawing. So I see a few friends are raising hands, and I haven't really monitored the chat. So I would turn the microphone to Dr. Lu, and to see if we still have time for any questions or answers. Thank you.
Dr. Wu, for the great talk. Thank you for introducing this magical kingdom of the 0s and 1s to our students, because I think they are familiar with base 10 system, but now we're talking about the base 2 using 0 and 1 to represent numbers. So everyone, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat. You can send a question to me so I can see the questions, or you can choose to unmute yourself and ask questions directly to Dr. Wu. So I want to stop here to see whether anyone have any questions about this base 2 number, about zeros and ones. Well, I haven't seen any question in the chat yet, but if anyone have any question, you can unmute yourself, ask Dr. Wu directly. Oh, there's a question about, is there going to be more magic lessons? Yes, next week, Dr. Wu will continue talking about zeros and ones to middle school and high school students. So that will be more in-depth talk. Thank you. And Dr. Wu, if you want to talk more about talks,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah, so next week we are going to do a little bit more math. You may see a little bit more additions and multiplications, especially if you have siblings who are in the middle school and the high school. And then I will also show them how using this binary, the ones and zeros, would help us to put in hidden pictures and making it a digital watermark.
yeah, and we have another question, Dr. Wu. How do you separate binary letters or numbers in code?
How do we, sorry, can you repeat it?
May I
How do you
leave?
separate binary letters or numbers in code?
How do you separate? So usually in the computer hardware, they will have a different unit to store this different bit. So we call them as, so let me see, we call them as a bit or 0 and 1s. So you can see that in the previous example, we have a total of 5 bits to represent the number between 0 and 30. And we actually can have more bits to represent, to tell a bigger number. And those are actually stored and implemented in computer by storing in different units.
And we have another.
And there are certain formats that in computer programming will tell you exactly what are the rules that you should follow to store those numbers.
We have another question. How much ones and zeros would it take for you to make a gigabyte?
Make a what? Megabyte?
Gigabyte.
A gigabyte?
Huh?
Gigabyte? Oh, that's a very interesting question. So I actually, so you would see if we continue our process with about 10 bits, we are going to be able to record numbers up to actually just below 1024. So basically 0 to 1023. So this is roughly about 1,000 numbers, just a little over 1,000 numbers. If we double of that, if we have 20 bits, we are going to be able to represent roughly 1 million numbers, choices. And similarly, so I'm actually running out of here. So yes, yeah, okay. So my daughter is telling me that her computer time may be running up, but I'm going to be quick. And then we will have more discussions next week. So if we use 10 more bits, we are going to augment this by another 1,000 of times. So this will be give us a megabyte, and this would giving us mega number of so a million bits, and this is going to be certain to giving us a gigabit and so on and so forth. So we are going to talk more next week on bigger numbers using just ones and zeros.
A gigabyte.
Okay, so Dr. Wu, we have a couple more questions, but I don't know whether you need to go now. If you do, we can save the questions for next week. But if you have a couple minutes, I can read you the questions.
Okay, so sure, you can. So I couldn't see any of the questions to me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
So the question is, how many ones and zeros are in a picture? Or how many zeros and ones can you use in total?
It depends on how much storage you would have. So every such bit will need to be stored. So that's why when your parents are buying computers or smartphones and tablets, the vendors will tell you how much storage are there. And every bit would need to be stored using a tiny, what we call as a semiconductor element to store them. So depending on the amount of the storage, and we can actually do some more calculation. And in the picture, like a photograph that we have, usually we would have, so a picture, let's say like this, and computer, different from the film cameras, computer only like to handle countable number of things. So this is a process that we often call as sampling. So we are going to tell how many picture element, or called pixels, in each row, and how many rows we have. So that's the total number of pixels in the picture. And for each pixel, if you want to give a very nice color pictures, each pixels typically we will describe how much red light I need to ask computer to shine there, and adding how much green light. So let me write it here: red, green, and blue light. In combination, this will give us a very large range of choices of color. And each of those lights describe how bright I should shine, or maybe I should turn off those lights, meaning I need to be zero. So typically, it's common to have 8 bits to describe how bright I should shine. For each of these 3, we call it the color primaries. So that means every pixel, when we directly using cameras to capture, actually every bit. So we will take 24 bits per pixel to store the color. And then you need to multiply to do this for every pixel in the picture. So you can calculate how much storage would be needed. And then there are new technologies over the past several decades to try to squeeze out, so not every bit would be equally important. So for example, in the area of electrical and computer engineering, or more generally electrical engineering and computer science, scientists and engineers and researchers had worked in the past decades to figure out how we should really compress to remove all the wasteful places to store information, and squeeze those pictures in as few bits as possible, allowing you to put in more pictures in your smartphone, and also allowing us to send our video like today and share with each other over our wireless channels.
Well, thank you. We have a couple more questions, but I think for next week, since you talk about this more, so Aiden, I saw you submit a couple of questions. Let's save those questions for next week. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wu.
Okay,
thank
sure.
Everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.